How's it going, everybody? Aaron Smith here for Forward Gettysburg, and I have a treat for you guys. I am at the Chancellorsville battlefield here just outside of Fredericksburg, Virginia. Behind me is the intersection of the Plank Road and the Furnace Road. And those of you who know the Battle of Chancellorsville know that at this intersection, two titans of the Confederacy would meet for the last time. This is the site of the Lee-Jackson bivouac. So let's get up to speed on the Battle of Chancellorsville, May 1st, 1863. Lee and Hooker are going to meet just east of town. And Hooker's going to do fairly well at first. However, he is going to act overcautiously. He's going to give the initiative to Lee, a man who needs no invitation to take that initiative. Lee and Jackson are going to be meeting here on some cracker boxes left over by the Federal Army, and they're going to be looking at a map of the area, deciding what to do. Around midnight, Jeb Stuart, leader of the Confederate cavalry, is going to approach the two men and inform them that he has verified the right flank of the Union Army is in air. It is not anchored to any natural or man-made obstacle. It is in air, just a few miles to the west of here. Lee and Jackson, they're going to devise one of the wildest, boldest schemes the Confederacy had ever seen up to that point, and likely ever will see for the rest of the war. Now see, Lee had already divided his army. He had left some troops at Fredericksburg to cover the army's move to the west. So he's already divided his army once. He has about 44,000 men right now. He is going to divide his army once more. And folks, by the end of the battle, Lee will divide his army again for the Battle of Salem Church. He divides his army 3 times here at Chancellorsville. He is going to divide his army, 30,000 men, Jackson's entire corps. They're going to march down this road and hit the Federals in their right flank. For several hours, beginning in the morning hours of May 2nd, this road, some 30,000 men, will march on to the Union's flank. Now, Hooker is going to gain some wind of this idea. There's going to be some reports. The men are going to be spotted at Hazel Grove. Hooker is going to inform General Oliver Otis Howard of the 11th Corps, fresh to the 11th Corps. He's not super popular. You see, the 11th Corps is comprised a large majority of German, Polish immigrants. And their previous leader was an immigrant himself, spoke the language. The men liked him. Oliver Otis Howard is this very, he's an abolitionist. He's very religious, very zealous in his religion. And that's not going to jive well with the men of the 11th Corps. Howard is going to be put on notice. Watch for an attack from the west. Now, Jackson is going to do some maneuvering here. Jackson is a master of deceit on the battlefield, and he is going to prove that mastery over and over again here at Chancellorsville. Around 10 a.m., Stonewall Jackson's corps, the head of that 30,000 man column, is going to reach this spot. Now, about 3/4 of a mile to the northwest is going to be Hazel Grove. This area would have been relatively clear at the time. Union men hiding up in trees, acting as scouts, is going to spot Jackson's men moving past this spot. There's going to be some artillery fire from the Union on the Confederates as they try to get through here, and those Confederates are then going to try to get through this spot much, much more quickly. Jackson, realizing that the men are exposed here and the Union can easily see what his plan is, he is going to move and take a road to go further to the south. After the Union realizes that Jackson is moving away from them, they start to rest a little bit easy. They think that Jackson is actually retreating with that 30,000 man column rather than making a move upon their right flank. Hooker and Howard, as a result thereof, relax just a little bit, thinking that Jackson and undoubtedly the Army of Northern Virginia are moving away, retreating from the Union lines. At some point in the early afternoon of May 2nd, 1863, General Daniel Sickles is going to advance from the center of the Union line and start harassing the rear of what he thinks is a Confederate retreat. Now, that harassment is going to be met by the brigades of Posey and Wright, as well as some elements of the rear of Jackson's column. Many Confederate men involved in this fighting are going to be captured. However, what that also is going to do is that's going to bring in the 12th Corps under Slocum, as well as elements of the 11th Corps under Howard, which is Jackson's intended target. By bringing those troops over from the right flank, they're working with Jackson's plan. They're further weakening that portion of the Union line. I'm currently at one of the most pristine parts of the Chancellorsville battlefield. I am here at the Jackson Flank Attack Park. And this place is beautiful, a sharp contrast to the fury that would befall it the afternoon of May 2nd, 1863. Eventually, Jackson is going to snake his way to the north. He is going to take the Brock Road north to meet the Orange Turnpike. There, he will begin to deploy his men into a 2-mile wide front on either side of the turnpike. Though his men are into position by about 3 p.m., he makes them wait for 2 hours to let silence fall on the forest from all of the movement and the shuffling of men. At approximately 5 p.m. in the afternoon of May 2nd, 1863, Jackson's force of nearly 30,000 men will erupt from the forest. Small animals will filter out before the men. Rabbits, squirrels, birds fly from their perches at the sudden mass of butternut and gray headed to the east. There, Howard's unsuspecting 11th Corps awaits like prey. The clamor of men charging forward, the high-pitched, banshee-like squeal of the rebel yell came down upon Howard's 11th Corps with a fury none of the men had ever seen before. Many men get up and head for the rest of the Union lines almost immediately. Others are organized into a piecemeal defense. Special mention going to the 1st Brigade, 2nd Division of the 11th Corps under Adolph Bushbeck, putting up a brave defense until finally, they are outflanked and pushed backwards. The fighting will rage on until about 7 p.m. here on the right flank, several miles from the rest of the Union Army. There's no natural defense, natural barrier, man-made barrier in this area. The 11th Corps, they were forgotten about. The 11th Corps consisting mostly of immigrants from Europe, especially places like Germany and Poland. Many of their commanders failed them that day, thinking that Jackson's army was retreating. Due to that unfortunate circumstance of being out here, something they had no control over, they were just simply following orders. Being out here on the right flank, they earned the unfortunate nickname, the Flying Dutchman. On the evening of May 2nd, Stonewall Jackson will personally reconnoiter the enemy's lines. Upon returning from his personal reconnaissance of the Union Army, Jackson will come across a regiment from North Carolina working picket duty. That regiment, thinking Jackson was Union cavalry, will fire a volley. One of Jackson's aides will cry out, "Stop, stop, you're shooting your own men." Those North Carolinians will fire a second volley, thinking it was some sort of cruel joke. This time, Jackson himself would be wounded in the left arm. He would be evacuated from the scene and his left arm amputated. Stonewall Jackson would die on May 10th, 1863 from pneumonia. The brightest military minds the Confederacy had known up to that point in the Civil War had died. The Confederates later would head north. They would begin their second invasion of Yankee territory. This time, Lee without his beloved Stonewall Jackson. Well guys, it's been an absolute pleasure being out here with you. This part of Chancellorsville is so awesome. It's so cool to be here. You get such a sense of dread. You look over, you just see the tops of the trees, and to think of 30,000 Confederates erupting out of there all at once is just humbling, to say the least. So make sure, if you come to Chancellorsville, which you should, make sure you come out here to the Jackson Flank Attack Park. I think there's some kind of official name for it, but that's what I'm gonna call it. I've been out here for darn near an hour, and I've been the only person out here. So that's a pretty good sign. Your mileage may vary, but I'm having a blast out here. I'm trying to hit Spotsylvania and then Fredericksburg later, and I got lost in Chancellorsville doing this video. What an absolute just treat of a national park here. So make sure you come out, check out Chancellorsville. As always, my name is Aaron Smith. This has been Forward Gettysburg, and I will catch you on the next one.